Hey guys, welcome back to the DrCliffAuD vlog. This is vlog number 45, and today I'm going to be talking about hearing loops. In fact, I'm actually going to take you into my clinic and show you the hearing loop installation that just happened yesterday, and I'm going to show you an interview that I did with Thomas Kaufmann, who is the founder of OTOjOY, who happened to complete the hearing loop installation. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right over to that installation and the interview that I did with Thomas. So enjoy. Hey guys, I'm here with Thomas Kaufmann from OTOjOY. Actually, I should say the founder of OTOjOY, right. Because today is a really big day in the clinic. We actually just had installed a hearing loop, so individuals with telecoils inside of their hearing aids, or actually using an OTOjOY system that you have, can be able to tap into an audio system wirelessly directly from the loop that we had installed. So, Thomas, thank you for joining me today. Of course, it's a Saturday morning. We're all working on the weekend, of course.
What's a weekend?
Right now, there's no such thing as weekend in the entrepreneur world. So what I'd like you to do is kind of explain just in general what a hearing loop is.
Yeah, so a hearing loop is an assistive listening system that takes the audio signal, the sound, from a sound system in a venue, in a building, and sends it wirelessly to people's hearing aids or cochlear implants.
So what type of facilities would you find those in?
So you typically find it in performing arts theaters, in lecture halls, in places of worship, in community rooms, in retirement homes, in senior centers, in libraries.
And then what are the benefits that come along with having a hearing loop in a facility?
So typically what happens when you use your hearing aid in the regular microphone mode is it picks up all the sounds around you. Anything that you hear in the space, like rustling or a baby crying or something. And when you're using a loop system, what it does is it cuts out all that background noise and sends you clear sound directly to your ears. So essentially what the person hears is the equivalent of listening to an audiobook with noise-canceling headphones.
That's awesome. And I'm actually going to insert a clip of that so you can hear the audio difference. But tell me, Thomas, what is the process like of getting one of these hearing loops installed?
So it depends on the facility. In small spaces like what we're dealing with here, all you need is essentially one wire around the perimeter of the room that connects to an amplifier, and that amplifier connects to the sound system. And so we're sending out a signal into the wire, and that creates a magnetic field in the space that can be picked up by the device. So in this case, what we're doing is we're running a copper foil on the floor around the perimeter of the room, and that'll get covered with the vinyl tile or carpet, whatever the finished flooring material will be. So in the end, you don't see any of the system at all. All you see is the signage, and you'll know the system is there. So when it's new construction or a remodel, it's rather easy to install.
And that's what we're doing right now, because we have, of course, a new construction in this facility, and I got a hold of you, probably it's been like 6 months to a year ago at this point, because our build-out's been taking so long, and everyone watching this is fully aware of the issues that we've had with that. But we actually have flooring going in 2 days from now. Yep. So the perfect time frame for you is really to get in right at this point.
Exactly. So we generally want to come in a day or 2 days before the flooring goes in, so that the wire isn't exposed for too long, that there's no risk of damaging it, and then the flooring goes on top of it, and you won't ever see it again, and it'll be safe and secure.
That's awesome. So now what do you do if you have a public facility or public venue that already is finished out, like they have flooring installed? What happens then if they want a hearing loop?
So most situations are solvable for us. So a lot of times what we do is in churches or in synagogues, they have carpet, and we can pull up the carpet around the edges and run the copper foil underneath that. Then other situations, you may have a tile floor, and we can cut into the grout line and bury the wire in the grout line. Or if it's a small space and an installation in the floor isn't an option, we can sometimes go in the ceiling, in a suspended ceiling, and install the wire in there. So typically there is some way of us being able to install the wire in the facility to have good signal throughout.
That's awesome. So there really is no restrictions when you look at it. If you have, if you're in a public venue, there's no reason why they couldn't have one of these installed, right?
Exactly. One of the most difficult situations is if you have a hardwood floor where all the floor pieces are
locked together?
Locked into each other.
I gotcha.
Those we can't just lift around the edges or something. So in a situation like that, it would require to have the floor reinstalled or put new flooring in. So sometimes the project gets delayed because of that. but 90% of the situations we come across, there is a way of retrofitting it.
That's awesome.
That's the majority of the work we do.
That's awesome. Now, I know that a lot of public venues, they may be thinking that from a cost perspective, it might not be cost effective to install a hearing loop. Now, for our facility, definitely very cost effective for a space this size, but when you start looking at expense versus benefit of having that for the people who frequent your venue, is installing a hearing loop in these venues cost effective?
So it depends on how you define cost effective. If you're looking at increased ticket sales from a hearing loop, that's one question. The other question is, do you want to make your facility accessible to all people? And when you look at the total cost of a hearing loop installation, say an average sized church, it's typically somewhere between $8,000 and $15,000. I would argue it's a very cost-effective solution. And if you look at the total cost of construction, I mean, if you're looking at your build out, what you're spending in total, and you compare the cost of a hearing loop installation to that, you probably won't even notice much of it in the budget overall.
Right, you know, I think it's a no-brainer, to be quite honest with you, to have accessibility, and I think this is probably the best form of accessibility that you can have inside of a public venue, because I know that some venues, they're picking out like infrared systems and other things like that. Right. How much better is a telecoil than all those other things that exist out there?
So with a hearing loop system, it's the only technology that allows direct access to the hearing aid or a cochlear implant. So with an infrared system or an FM system, you always require a receiver for each person that wants to use the system, and then a neck loop that's essentially a mini hearing loop around the neck that then transmits to the telecoil. Or you could use headphones with it. So with any of the other systems, each person that wants to use it needs to have one of those receivers that they need to borrow from the venue. With a loop system, you can walk in with your own device, you see the sign, you press the button on your device.
You turn it on instantaneously.
Exactly, and you connect it and you sit down and you look and act like everybody else. And you don't need to stand out, you don't need to identify as someone with a hearing loss, you don't need to communicate with venue staff. So a hearing loop system is really the only assistive listening technology that creates equal access.
And I would say that the quality of the sound that you gets better from an installed hearing loop system compared to just wearing your own neck loop, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm actually going to show you guys through the area that we did. Can you actually explain to us right now, what are we actually seeing done here?
So what we're seeing done here is we installed loop systems in 4 rooms. We're in the waiting area right now. So there's going to be a TV on the wall that will play some demo videos and informational materials for people waiting here. And they can hear the sound from that video directly in the hearing device by switching to the T-coil mode. And then we installed loops in the 3 fitting rooms. And the benefit of that is that when someone is being fit with a hearing aid, they can experience a loop right there with a demo video that's being played on the computer. And then you can make adjustments to the settings in the hearing aid and make sure the person gets the best sound quality they can possibly get.
Yeah, like hearing is believing, right? It's one thing for me to try to explain what a hearing loop sounds like with your telecoil inside of your hearing aid or your cochlear implant. It is a completely different thing to actually experience what that sounds like. And I'm going to cut away from us right now, and I'm going to give a quick sound sample. So enjoy this sound sample, guys.
You also must be patient. Strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near.
Beloved, do not grumble against one another, so that you may not be judged.
See the judge standing at the doors, as an example of suffering and patience.
Beloved, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord.
So we have loops in every single one of our treatment rooms. What's the benefit of having that versus just looping a waiting area?
So most hearing professionals think, oh, we should loop the waiting area, and that's definitely a great idea. But now if you want someone to listen to that and experience the loop, you have to walk them out to the waiting area, listen to it. And now if you want to optimize the sound, they could give you feedback and say, okay, like it sounds a little tinny and you can adjust that. Now you go back to the fitting computer, you make the adjustment, now you have to bring them back out and they can compare side by side.
Yeah, it's much more difficult to do it that way. You're wasting a lot of time.
Right.
And if mobility is a difficulty, right, actually getting up and walking out into the area, and then you can't necessarily fine tune it when they're actually listening to it,
exactly.
which would be a big benefit for sure.
Yeah, so if you have the loop system in the treatment rooms, you have the ability to do that. And even if you can't install a loop under the floor in the ceiling, we have a chair pad solution. That's just like a little cushion basically that you would place on the chair the person is sitting in, and that creates a magnetic field for them just in that one seat And that's a really simple installation. People could do it themselves.
Absolutely. That sounds awesome. Now, you were telling me another thing about like a countertop loop. So if you're someone who has hearing loss and you're standing at the front counter and you're having difficulty hearing the person talking to you, what's the solution for that?
Yeah, so we have these counter loop systems with a gooseneck microphone for the staff person that would speak into it. And then it creates a field around the area where the loop system is set up. And the person with the hearing device can stand in front of it, be switched into their T-coil, and they would only hear what's being spoken into the microphone.
Great, so like if there was conversation going on somewhere else, like in the waiting area, that would no longer be an issue.
Exactly.
All you'd be getting is the voice of the person who's talking to you from across the counter.
Exactly, and those systems are excellent for reception areas, for anything where you have like glass windows where someone's speaking through a microphone and a loudspeaker. I mean, even for someone without any hearing difficulties,
right.
It's difficult to hear.
For sure. I know I go to different places like Costco, or you go to the bank, if they have glass up, and now with COVID going on, of course, there's all these barriers, and you can't hear the person on the other side.
Exactly.
And if you don't have, I mean, they're also wearing masks, which makes it even more difficult. And if you could switch into your telecoil, have them talk into a microphone, and then have that sound send right to your ears, that would be the best way to go about it.
Exactly. And so like you said, bank teller windows are one of those situations where it really helps. Checkouts at grocery stores, ticket counters for performing arts or for public transportation. So basically any one-on-one interaction where you're trying to hear the other person.
That's
and
awesome.
in those settings, hearing loop technology is the only technology that's even viable. You wouldn't be able to do that with an FM or infrared system because there's no way for someone to borrow a receiver and do all of that.
Well, you don't have to convince me. I think it's a hugely valuable thing, and I think if anyone's building a public facility, hearing loop should be high on the list for something that they need to have done with that. And if you don't have a hearing loop installed in a public venue, I think that it's really worth the consideration to take the time and the expense to go ahead and get your place retrofit with a telecoil or with a hearing loop for telecoils to help the individuals who are hard of hearing. So what would you say to individuals who are like, well, I have a telecoil inside of my hearing aids, but none of the places I go to, how do they get those places to install a hearing loop for them?
Totally. So if you have a T-coil in your hearing aid, you're ready to go and you can make use of these systems. And every place that has a sound system and a microphone or some kind of audio source, say a movie theater, etc., has to have an assistive listening system and has to have neck loops. So you can at least make use of the system with the receiver and the neck loop and use your telecoil. So even if there aren't a lot of hearing loops installed in rooms around you, you can use it with a neck loop. So that's the first step. And then the next step would be to speak up to the venue and say, hey, there's a better way. You could have a loop system installed in the facility, and then I wouldn't have to borrow the receiver from you. I wouldn't need to deal with the neck loop and have the stuff hanging around me. And so essentially, if people who have a T-coil in their device and want to make use of this in the places they go to, say the theaters they visit or the places of worship they go to, if they talk to the church or the synagogue or the theater and say, hey, you should talk to OTOjOY, they can install the system for you, we can make it happen.
So OTOjOY, of course, is your company, and you guys install these hearing loops. And if you ask me, I think that it's probably something you're getting pretty busy with out here in the Phoenix, Arizona market, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we currently serve all of California and Arizona, and we're in the process of growing beyond that.
For those individuals who do not have hearing loss, but go to these public venues and they cannot stand the sound because the acoustics are so bad in some of these places, what options do they have to use a hearing loop?
Yeah, so if you don't have your own hearing device, you can typically borrow a device from the venue. So it's a receiver that would hang around your neck with headphones. And then there's another product that we've created called OTOjOY Loop Buds, and they're earbuds that have a telecoil embedded in the cable. And you can plug that into your phone, download our app, and now you have access to a loop system. So your phone combined with our loop buds essentially becomes the hearing loop receiver.
Now, where can you actually find those?
You can find those on our website on loopbuds.com or on OTOjOY.com.
That's perfect. I will go ahead and put a link in the description of this video, so make sure you guys check that out. Thomas, thank you so much for coming out and explaining all about hearing loops today. Absolutely. And about your product that you have for individuals who don't even have hearing loss but want to get better sound quality in public venues. So thank you so much. I'd shake your hand, but you know, COVID, so let's go ahead and bump elbows.
Elbow bump.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Back to my YouTube room. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview that I did with Thomas. I really think that hearing loops and telecoils are a very underrated thing in the hearing loss community. I think that if we really banded together as individuals with hearing loss and as business owners who run these public venues, I think that we could make a massive change for the better for individuals who actually have hearing loss and who struggle to hear in these environments. So do yourself a favor, reach out to these communities. Go to Facebook, go to the hearing loss communities that are on there. Find people in your area that also have hearing loss. Join your local HLAA association, your Hearing Loss Association of America local chapter, and get together with other individuals with hearing loss and take that combined power of unity and go to these public venues and ask them to install these hearing loops. There is nothing but benefit for you to have from these large public venues. Now, I know that COVID is a time where not a lot of these public venues are really open to the public, but it doesn't change the fact that right now is the time for us all to band together and to get this hearing loop installation movement happening. All right, guys, that is it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to check out the other vlogs, you can find them on my YouTube channel or my website, DrCliffAuD.com. And as always, I'll see you next week.